Hello, everyone. It's rare you see me 2 days in a row. Excuse me, I need to do something with my hair. Cut it, but that's another story. And the main reason was because when I did the last recording yesterday, I had um, shared the screen before I started recording. So that let you see the screen. That did let you see the charts as I was pulling them up. But unfortunately, you didn't get the full effect of the charts on the screen. So I'm going to redo yesterday, and so you can actually see the charts as they're appearing on the screen. And this may not be identical to what I did yesterday, but it'll probably be pretty much along the same lines. So this broadcast is taking place August 18th, and my name is Gary Gomes. I'm a Vedic astrologer wearing a marble t-shirt, and I'm going to pull up the chart for the week. I'm going to go over the charts of um, the summit between Trump and Putin, and also the charts of possible presidential contenders, Gavin Newsom and um, Vice President, horrible memory I'm having here, Vice President J.D. Vance. So let me first pull up the chart that I pulled up yesterday. It's actually it's a nicer chart today, but we'll pull up yesterday's chart. I'll just show you. Okay, so the chart should be on the screen. I should be in the center of your screen, roughly over the Navamsha chart. I'll put it over the Shastyamshas because we don't use those very often. And so you'll see me down in the lower right-hand corner of your screen. So yesterday when we first met, oh, by the way, I just want to mention I do readings. I give lessons in Vedic astrology. You can call me up for rates or text me for rates. My phone number is 508-525-0001. I'll repeat that, 508-525-0001. And you can text me at that number. And you can also email me at garygomesg@gmail.com. That's my name, the letter G at gmail.com. No periods or breakups in the email, except for the gmail.com. So, yeah, so looking at yesterday's chart, oh, and by the way, I'd like to take this opportunity to ask you to subscribe, like, and share and comment if you feel so inclined for this particular broadcast. So I'm just going to start off because I want to do something a little different from yesterday. I'll look at yesterday's chart. And yesterday's chart, this was for the week in advance, we had um, a Libra rising with Venus and Jupiter in the ninth house. That's generally a good combination. There are two benefics in the ninth house. There is a rule in Vedic astrology that ninth house that um, planets. So Jupiter's called is what's called an indicator of luck, which is a ninth house phenomenon, and also of higher knowledge. So it's generally considered not good to have the ninth house indicator in the ninth house. Venus is not a ninth house indicator, it's a seventh house indicator, so that's okay. Um, Saturn is a significator. Saturn is not a significator for the sixth house, and Mars is not a significator for the 12th house. As a matter of fact, it's the opposite. Mars is a significator for the sixth house, and Saturn is a significator for the eighth house. So, what do I mean by that? Okay, well, basically, Saturn is an indicator of long-term problems, which is an eighth house matter, and losses, which is a 12th house matter. So if you lose something, or you have a lot of expenses, or if you're confined or limited in what you can do, that's usually connected with the eighth house. It's connected with problems you can't reach, chronic problems. The 12th house is connected with things that happen to you in sleep, or so it's connected actually to pleasures of the bed. So it's actually considered by some astrologers to be a sex house, but it's also connected with things that are connected with hidden problems or um, I'm trying to think, or sex for that matter, sexual relationships. So it's pleasures of the bed. Now that doesn't necessarily mean the person who has planets in this house is necessarily affected by sexual thirsts or tendencies. Uh, it, it does indicate, though, there can be a lot of time spent in bed. So sometimes if people have chronic health problems, or if they like to relax a lot, that is, they like to recline a lot or sleep a lot, the 12th house will cause that kind of behavior. If Saturn's in the 12th house, there can be sleep-related problems or sleep-related disorders. And if Mars is connected with the sixth house, there can be wounds. I had a friend who had a Mars in the sixth house placement, which is supposed to be good in Vedic astrology, but um, he had problems with at certain points in his life, problems with overconsumption, and also he got stabbed later in life. He did recover, but he got stabbed several times um, in a robbery attempt. So essentially, these kinds of things will show up in connection with the sixth house. If Saturn's in the sixth house right now, it generally indicates slow digestion for Libra. It indicates problems with religious leaders or spiritual leaders. It indicates problems with seagoing or even flying ships. And it can indicate, since Pisces is an idealistic sign, it can correlate with disillusionment with leaders or people who you view as being teachers or guides. And we're seeing that a lot in both parties right now, just in general. Mars is in the 12th house, some air disasters, some increased violence at night. We're seeing that. Increased potential for earthquakes because Mars is in a sign ruled by it's in an Earth sign, excuse me. But basically, Jupiter will give problems with philosophy or problems with people we take guidance from if it's in the ninth house. So there may be a little bit too much credulity in terms of paying attention to advisors or teachers. And some of the ninth isn't nearly as bad, but there can be too much attention paid to marriage partners or thinking you're lucky in love. It breeds a great deal of over optimism from what I've experienced and seen. Um, Mercury's in a house connected with work, so a lot of work will need to be repeated. A lot of work will need to be re-examined or critically assessed. And Sun and K2 are in the 11th house, so there'll be gains, but there'll also be holdbacks from government or from uh, from people, so there'll be expenses. Sometimes Mars in the 12th house can give car expenses as well. And let's see now. From this chart, Mars is the Lord of the second house, so expenses will go, so money as it comes in will go out. The other thing we have right here is Rahu in Aquarius in this chart. Again, it's a good time for invention or for people breaking away from or people wanting to form alternative governments. We're seeing this now in Canada, and I discussed this yesterday with Alberta and Saskatchewan and even parts of British Columbia uh, or Vancouver, trying to um, break away or split away from Canada. This isn't the first time this has happened, but it's the first time it's happened, as far as I know, with these provinces. So there's been an ongoing issue with Quebec for years now because of um, French, because of language and cultural issues. And most of Canada's population is really centered around um, Toronto, the Toronto, Ottawa, and Montreal regions in the country. Uh, so you do have some large cities on the West Coast, but that's really where most of their population is located. So it's around the capital, it's around Ottawa, it's around Ontario and Quebec. So so essentially, so Canada is, so if we look at Toronto, uh, Ontario, and Montreal, we're looking at an area which is um, Vancouver, maybe areas which are equivalent to the Eastern Seaboard cities in the United States and the West Coast, cities like Portland, Seattle, San Francisco, and Los Angeles, and to a certain extent, San Diego. So we have the Northeast liberal belt and the West Coast liberal belts. Those seem to be the concentrations of liberal ideas or liberal thinkers in the United States. So, and Vancouver is more like a Texas. It's more connected with drilling and with mining and things like that. Saskatchewan to a certain extent as well, and parts of British Columbia and that part of the country are more connected with high tech. So essentially, it's a relatively similar divide to one that exists in the United States. And so population density tends to draw more liberal, more attraction towards liberal thinking. Uh, and that's because you attract more different, a variety of different types of people there. And this sort of like takes me back to my years in college where I had a professor who spoke a lot about sea cultures and land cultures. And the theory is that sea cultures have a lot of trade, they have a lot of exchange, they have a lot of introduction of new ideas, whereas land-based cultures tend to be more stable, more traditional, less prone to um, changes in direction or liberal thought patterns. So that's why the heartland, at least according to the way he explained it, that's why the heartland is generally more conservative than the coasts are, because there's not as much introduction of new ideas in the heartland as there is or as there are on the coast. And so he he was one of my journalism teachers and professors, nice guy, very smart guy. And at least I thought he was. So this reasoning, so that the next time you're looking um, at why most of the United States center is red on the election maps and most of the coasts are blue, that's your reason. The central parts of the country have to stay stable because um, that's their survival mode. They need to follow the rhythms of nature. Let's put it that way. They need to produce things. They need to. Um, so if you're a farmer, you have to rely on the cycles of the season. That will usually imply more of a connection with tradition. And if you're a miner, you have to your life depends on you pulling something from the earth. So they're more earth-based cultures. Sea cultures are more communications-based cultures. They're more connected with goods, and along with the exchange of goods comes exchange of ideas. So with this, right, getting back to this chart, Rahu is in uh, Aquarius, which should give a lot of technological innovation over the next month. As a matter of fact, over the next year and a half. That'll be especially true in medicine, I would say, over the next between next May and excuse me, have an inch, and the end of the year, the end of 2026. You'll also see more scandals connected with medicine next year as well, and more efforts to reform both medicine and the sciences and defense. And it'll come from a variety of directions. It won't be Republican or democratically based. And this will be true across the world. It won't be just the United States being dissatisfied with it. There are a great many countries, and I forgot to mention this yesterday, that are in massive debt. Some countries are doing extraordinarily well, don't get me wrong, but in Europe and um, South America and even Africa and even to a certain extent China, um, in their efforts to combat COVID, just put themselves into massive debt levels, and there's more pressure on them to increase spending on things like military and other areas. So don't be surprised if you see um, I won't call them revolutions, but at least shifts in public opinion against the more um, traditional way governments have been doing things in around the world. Uh, and I wouldn't be really shocked to see a lot of leaders within about a month's time lose positions because of the eclipse and the Sun K2 conjunction. It's happening right now. So I think um, over the next month and a half, and roughly 6 months from now, you'll see similar changes um, in elected leadership. And this pattern won't be completely over until, I would say, until the end of next year. But it'll have intense points. It'll be intense around September and again around March. If we're looking at the world map for this week, Moon is in the eighth house. That's not a bad placement because it's exalted, but it also indicates problems with career and also problems with publicity. If we change it to, if we change this map to do, let me see if I can do it. Here, and go to an now chart. So we have a Moon, Venus, Jupiter conjunction, good for writing, good for expression, good for all those kinds of things. And it's a slight shift, but Moon in this particular sign is in Marigashira, so that'll make us a little bit more aggressive. And yesterday I spoke about the shootings that happened. There were two sets of shootings in New York last week at the very end of the week. We had the shootings in Georgia. I think I can't remember if it was last week or the week before. And that's actually caused by the tension because of the Saturn-Mars opposition, which is right here. So Saturn and Mars make everyone a perfectionist. If you can't measure up to the standards, well, then we're either going to reach a stalemate or we're going to um, take you out. So unfortunately, for about the next couple of months, we're going to see these kinds of activities, this kind of um, increased um, lawlessness, unfortunately. The one thing that was fascinating that came out, and I don't know how true it is the there was a story that came out about the crime stats in Washington, D.C., and it said that violent crime was down, but murders were up in Washington. So I can understand why there was an impulse for uh, the president to call in the National Guard. As some reporters indicated, um, as some reports I looked at indicated, the last time this happened was basically in the late 1960s when there were protests and riots in connection with both civil rights and with the Vietnam War, I believe. So these, this is not really the same um, caliber of issue. We're not seeing riots in D.C., although I'd be willing to bet we're going to see some riots or um, some demonstrations fairly soon, maybe as early as September, but certainly by next spring. And also, so again, I'm not defending the action. I'm just saying it looks like the data that was given by the Washington D.C. Police Department was cooked. That is, they're not accurately, So is it possible for murders to go up and violent crime to go down? Yes, depending on which statistics you count. But some people in the Washington Police Department have been saying they've been cooking the numbers to make it look like there's less crime than there is. Also, we're seeing certain political scandals break out across the country. Obviously, the Epstein case is still an issue for a lot of uh, a lot of people around the country, both on the Republican side, both among Trump supporters and uh, among the Democrats. But there are also some other issues coming up from in connection with manipulation of intelligence agencies and uh, back in back in 2016 in order to um, either influence elections or undercut administrations. So this is a fascinating time to be watching a lot of this um, I would literally call it mudslinging, but it indicates some serious problems for people at large. And I'm not taking sides on this. I'm just reporting what I've seen. Uh, so again, that Rahu in Aquarius is very strong. This is passing over the USA charts moon right now. So you're going to see a lot more scandals before this is over the next year and a half, and a lot more domestic disruption. Okay? So let's move on to the summit. I wish I had better news to report about the summit, but I don't. This is the Trump-Putin meeting. So this is the chart for that. So at the start of the meeting, when the meeting, I took the scheduled start of the meeting versus when the meeting actually started. So the scheduled start of the meeting was 11 a.m. in Anchorage, Alaska, August 15th. And we have this stubbornness about land, which again is something which is one of the issues. Moon's in the eighth house, so there's not a good resolution. They'll have to meet in secret to come to an agreement. The moon is in the eighth house as Lord of the 11th house. Uh, Jupiter and Venus. The optimistic note about this chart is Jupiter and Venus are in the 10th house, so that indicates there is some hope, but it may be unrealistic hope. And Sun and Mercury are in the 11th house, so that's actually not that bad. The chart's not that horrible, but the two significators for war, K2 and Mars, are in the 12th house. 12th house indicates loss, so this could indicate uh, an increasing understanding and maybe a stop of loss of lives. But it looks to me like at the end of this, one or two leaders are going to lose positions because of this. Um, the one who wasn't involved, that is, if you look at the one who's excluded, and he's heading over with a delegation from Europe, I believe, to talk to Trump, is um, is this Saturn. So he's had a setback. Okay, but again, that doesn't mean it's permanent. And but I also don't think we're going to see a real end to this conflict. I hope I'm wrong, by the way, a real end to this conflict until around late November. And regardless of fairness or who did what first, I still think there's going to be some loss of property to Ukraine. But again, there's a lot of stubbornness in this chart. It's changing slowly, but I think essentially he he's not willing to give up anything, and I think that if we have this particular combination, it's sort of it's backed up by military force, but it's a little bit delusional. Okay, and the reason I'm saying that is because Rahu wants everything. This is the main problem or the main obstacle in the chart. Um, I'm not saying the Russians are right. Okay, so don't take the wrong message from this. I'm just saying, in order to end this conflict, some land will have to be given up. And um, but again, Russia is in horrible economic shape. Ukraine is as well. Europe is suffering greatly from this because of access to oil. Um, and one fellow astrologer said, well, look, they went up in 2020. Their imports from Russia went up in 2022, but it was far lower than their than pre invasion data. so there was a slight increase in consumption from Russia in 2022, but it went down again in 2023, and it went down last month. So um, I think so Russia is selling oil to countries like India, China, things like that, but its biggest customers mainly because those countries have switched over or are trying to switch over to natural fuels, so they're not working on any of their own oil production, and they're trying not to buy from the Saudis. Those countries are ending up having to deal with Russia. Interestingly enough, I just saw something on the news that I think Alberta just signed a pipeline deal with the United States. So a lot of the things that um, could work to lower inflation are actually going into place. Um, I'm not arguing over the efficacy of um, fossil fuels or pollution. I'm just arguing over straight short-term economics. Um, but this in this chart indicate that it's going to be slow progress and it's about land. So Saturn is slow, Mars is slow in between September 13th. Um, you might see some disruption or some reappraisal. It could last until next March. The war could last until next March or next August. But I'm hoping that isn't the case just for the poor countries involved, especially for the Ukraine. And I'm sort of hoping that everybody gets what they want. I don't think that's possible, but I'm, I'm just at least hoping they'll stop the fighting just because war is a ridiculous waste of life. So it's just, I've always thought it was the stupidest way to resolve problems. That's just my basic nature. Um, but people will do it. Um, the good thing about the chart, like I said, is even though the moon is in the eighth house, it's Lord of the 11th house of gains and victory. So I'm optimistic that some kind of a secret deal or some kind of secret arrangement can be worked out. It doesn't necessarily mean that so people will look at this and say, well, Trump's going to make some kind of secret deal with Russia. No, I'm just saying the deal itself will be made in secret. I don't think it'll involve the United States uh, hurting Ukraine. Okay, so you know, there's a difference. Okay. Um, the other charts I want to look at, because I've seen a lot come up on Gavin Newsom lately, was on Newsom's chart and J.D. Vance's chart. So I'm going to put Gavin Newsom. Okay. Gavin Newsom was born October 10th, so he was born in my birth month. Um, so maybe I should run for president. No, just joking. Um, Actually, people born in October haven't had a good history of winning presidencies, to be honest with you. The last person I can remember who actually did win was Jimmy Carter. So that was, and he only lasted for one term. So this chart isn't, um, it's sort of Carter-esque, but there's one big difference. And when I say Carter-esque, essentially they have the sun in the same sign. That's all I mean. So sun's in Virgo. Um, and Venus are in the first house. This is a nice combination. It's what makes him such a handsome man. I'm unashamed to admit that, even though my sexual preference is straight. He's a good-looking man. Um, Jupiter and Venus are in the first house. He's had a blessed political career. He, um, geez, he. I was reading his history in preparation for this analysis, and he was, I think, on the alderman in San Francisco. Then he was mayor of San Francisco. Then he was governor, and it was in a pretty rapid time frame. And he successfully fought back a recall attempt. But if we go over here, let's look at this chart and break it down. So Jupiter-Venus conjunctions, people with this combination tend to be lucky, although there is a conflict between Venus being a career-oriented house and Jupiter ruling um, houses of Dharma, or what a person should do in life. But also Jupiter rules a house of politics. So this will give him a career in politics, and a lucky career in politics. Okay, because these are two of the luckiest planets in the chart. This sort of explains his rapid ascendancy. The other thing is you have Sun in the second house, and Sun in the second house. He's going to have a magnetic personality. He's going to have, you know, a great big smile. He's going to seem very optimistic and hopeful. Sun is in Virgo. So if we go to the third house in the chart, that's where the chart starts to get a little bit, not dicey, but a little bit difficult, because the Mercury K2 combination is, I swear on a stack of Bibles or Vedas, that this combination is the easiest lying combination in a chart I have ever seen. People can make up stories and believe them. As a matter of fact, they sometimes prefer to misrepresent things than tell the truth. Okay? So they can pull entire arguments out of thin air. So I'm not being judgmental about them. This is a trait which most politicians possess, but it's extraordinary in Newsom's chart. And the Lord of the third house of speech is in the first house, so it's something that he actually gains from. So I'm not saying he's a bad person. I'm just saying that lying comes very easily to him. It's almost like a skill set he has. Um, and again, some people could say, well, that's just being an expert politician, which I would concede. But again, like I said, this is not really a good combination I trust very much for honesty. Mars is in the fourth house, can give difficulty in marriages or partnerships. Okay, because this indicates Mars affliction. Mars is in a good sign. It's an Ashlesha nakshatra. This is his Atma Karaka planet. It's a planet which is highest in degree regardless of sign. Can indicate a very spiritual person if Mars is in this particular sign and it's placed as it is in the Navamsha. But if we look at the Navamsha, the Mercury, the tendency for lying becomes a little bit worse because we have a Mars-Mercury combination over here. And as I said, I'm not sitting in judgment on them. It's a fairly common combination. It's almost a cliche combination for politicians to pretend to be something they aren't deep down inside. It's not really a flaw in politics. Moon is in the fifth house. So this is where this is another part where the chart tends to get a little bit less lucky than it could be. So the moon is in the fifth house of politics. It can indicate changing fortunes in politics. Moon is the lord of the 12th house, can indicate losses or potential losses in politics. Now, this is largely going to depend on when these major planetary periods occur. And we're looking at 2028. Let me get through the rest of the chart before I go on to it. Saturn's in the eighth house, which is not a good position for rising position in politics. Saturn is heading towards its debilitation, which is actually good for political ascendancy, to be honest. But it's Rahu's in the ninth. It's a direct Rahu, so that strengthens it. Gati Lagna is in the ninth house, which is good. And Rahu's lord is Mars, which is placed in the fourth house. But it gives a rapid rise in position, not necessarily a permanent rise in position. Uh, so over the next couple of years, and especially after October, so this period right now, he's in a moon major planetary period. So he's traveling a lot. 12th house is a house of travel, and he's getting a lot of fame and recognition up to October 26th of 2025. He'll probably score a major victory between October and December of 2025. Saturn period looks like a bit of a decline in fortunes. Maybe another candidate will surpass him. Mercury comes up March 13th to May 21st. And K2, so this will indicate him being caught in a lie, I would say. This is also relatively consistent with the eclipses. He is in a Saturn return, so this is his destiny to run, I would say, right now. And essentially he has, after Saturn, a Mercury subperiod, then that K2 subperiod, I'm sorry, up here, I just discussed. And his political life looks fairly good up until October 6th. Now, after October 6th, we can expect to see a rise in position because Mars is placed in the fourth house, and it gives that kind of a boost to the chart. Now, here's where it gets a little bit dicey. Rahu is in a subperiod. Rahu's subperiod starts around September 11th of 2027, goes all the way until January 19th of 2028. January 19th of 2028, all the way through May 15th of 2028, should give him a real strong rise in positional placement. The problem he starts running into is after May 13th. This may actually even steal the nomination away from him, although it looks unlikely to me because Rahu is stronger. And then he enters a Mercury period. Now, this is when the election will take place. Mercury can give unexpected results. It can give reversals in fortune. Okay? So this is both a favorable and kind of a tricky period for him because Mercury with K2 could elevate him. It could also bring him down to a fiery crash. And I'm thinking the latter just because Saturn is not strong in this chart, and Mercury and K2 are signed, they're well placed. And again, if I were looking at this just from the sheer potential in his chart, I would say he would be the next president, but I have my doubts. Okay. Let's look at Vance's chart. Now, Vance has problems too. So don't think I'm letting Vance off the hook. Okay. fine. Neither of these people may be the candidates, or Vance may be uh, sitting president before the election. You know, that's entirely possible. Um, President Trump is old. He's an old fella. You know, uh, he's he's up there in years. There could be an assassination attempt, which some people feel is going to happen. It could be successful, which I'm not ruling out. And or he could have some kind of a debilitating condition. But let's look at Vice President Vance's chart. So right now he's in a Saturn Mahadasha. It's excellent for ascendancy to power if Saturn's exalted, okay? And it's in conjunction with Mars. Also, one thing that um, Vance has working for him is there's no relationship between the Lord of the fifth house and the house of loss. Okay, so Jupiter's the Lord of the fifth house, and the house of loss has Sun in it, Sun and Venus in it, and that could be dangerous for him. But um, he has Mercury in the first house, indicates gains in financial success. He's a very articulate speaker. So is uh, Governor Newsom, but Vance is very sharp. You know, I could be biased. Uh, um, I'm not eliminating that possibility, but this chart kind of indicates it. His moon is better in this chart than um, Newsom's moon is. Okay, moon is in Chitra Nakshatra, if I recall it correctly. Chitra builds things. It's really a tough nakshatra to beat. Um, and Saturn is in Swati Nakshatra. Mars is in Vishaka Nakshatra, which are both good signs for him because Mars is heading towards its own sign. Saturn is exalted. And let's see now, K2's in the fourth house. So this can indicate some struggles in holding on to positions, but since K2's Lord is with an exalted Saturn, that's not quite as much a danger. Jupiter's in the fifth house, which is a really strong yoga for success in politics, a really strong combination for success in politics. Rahu's in the 10th. President Trump had a Rahu in the 10th house. Um, and Rahu's in what's called its exalted sign. Um, so Vice President Vance is in a Saturn Mahadasha right now. So he'll be largely kept in the background, I would say, at least until January of 2026. Come out campaigning for the congressional races and the senatorial races in 2026. That indicates more activity. Mercury seems to be one of his better planets in this chart. It's the ruler of the house of gains, but it can be a relatively unpredictable planet. But I think the thing that looks best for Vance is that he's hitting right around October 24th, right before the election, he's hitting a Saturn Mercury Rahu subperiod. So one would think the Rahu Mahadasha will deliver persons to the presidency more directly than other planetary periods would, but Rahu subperiods can do it as well. And as a matter of fact, President Trump was in a Jupiter major planetary period when he beat uh, Vice President Harris, who was in a Rahu major planetary period. Trump was elected during a Rahu major planetary period, but the sub period tends to match up with the U.S. chart a little bit better. Um, Newsom's chart, Newsom will be active on the stage for a while. He's a very young man, so I wouldn't rule him out round of elections. But I'm uncertain who will win, to be quite honest with you. But from the combination of planets, Sun and Venus is a more typical combination for people holding political office because essentially they work for the people, they work for the sovereign, they work for the government. So many people I've seen who held political office or who held government office have Sun in the 12th house. And it's not because they're egoless, but because um, um, they prefer public service, to be honest with you. And even though public service can be self-aggrandizing, um, it's often interesting that these combinations call for these positions call for a lot of self-sacrifice. That is, you can't be who you normally are, or you normally would be in daily life. You have to sacrifice a great deal. Um, this isn't saying that I absolutely rule out Newsom. I don't. I think it's a fairly, as a matter of fact, in terms of chart, overall chart strength, I think Newsom has a relatively stronger chart than Vance's chart is. But Vance's chart is reinforced by yogas, by combinations. So he has the Lord of the seventh house and the Lord of the sixth house in the third house. So he's extremely competitive. Um, along with Mars as the Lord of the fourth house of status and the ninth house of luck. Jupiter in its own sign is very lucky for political success. Okay. Now it's a retrograde Jupiter, so he'll come up unorthodoxly. And again, the K2 in the fourth house. We know the story of his family, about how his mother had various drug problems, and he went to live with his grandmother. So a lot of the things that you can see in Vance's life are supported by this chart. But political success, he came up really, I'm going to go backwards just a little bit. So he was in a Saturn Mahadasha when he was elected vice president. And the interesting thing about Saturn Mahadashas is that people will have doubts about you. They will have doubts about, and Saturn's kind of a peculiar planet. It's a nonconformist planet, so that's why he's gotten the odd designations he's gotten. Newsom is in a Rahu Mahadasha. That's almost like a movie star um, Mahadasha. So essentially, now again, a lot's going to depend on what happens over the next 3 years, obviously. But right now I draw them as about equal, and I give a slight edge to Vance just because of the timing of the Mahadashas and also because of the U.S. chart, which I haven't integrated into this analysis. So that's just for now. I'm sure we'll be looking at these charts a lot over the next few years. And I haven't ruled out any other candidates who are running right now. Certain computer simulations indicate that Pete Buttigieg is a likely candidate. Um, so I might have to look at that chart. J.D. Vance is the presumptive candidate on the Republican side, but that could change too. So we'll just see what happens. Now let's go back to the chart for this week, and I'll give you all your your charts. I'll give you all your significant events. We'll go to a new chart, a now chart. Okay, we're here. And so the rising sign has changed for this chart, but we're going to go back to yesterday's chart. So again, the rising sign doesn't matter right now. I've gotten a little bit less cautious than I was yesterday. And that shows because I'm in a Sagittarius. We have Sagittarius rising when I'm speaking now. So I may be being a little bit overly optimistic about Vance's chart and maybe a little bit more pessimistic about Newsom's chart than I was yesterday. So astrologers are affected by astrology too. Okay, so that's something to keep in mind. The other thing is, so let's go over to, so I want to break away from that topic. I think I've spent too much time on it anyway. Let's go to Aries. Aries this week, good potential for money and financial gains. Uh, good for, very good for communications. Um, Aries still has to watch out for heavy expenditures. So this is April 15th to May 15th, birth times. Sun and K2 are in the fifth house, so still some problems with children, but children may reverse their positions. They may actually find themselves calming, calming down or shifting a little bit. Um, I'd advise people with Aries rising to be especially careful uh, around the end of September or around the eclipse points in September, mainly because of this Sun K2 conjunction. It can hurt family members, it can hurt children, so just be a little careful about that. Mars is in the sixth house, so this sign is going to be very aggressive this month or this week, and also perfectionistic. Rahu's in the 11th house, so again, there's strong potential for gains, but don't be overly optimistic. For Taurus, this is May 15th to June 15th. We have again that Moon, Venus, Jupiter conjunction in the second house. Beautiful conjunction. Mercury's, and as a matter of fact, you might even be able to see them all in the sky. I'm not sure. Uh, Venus and Jupiter were really close together. I was feeling great last Monday, and I realized it was a Jupiter-Venus conjunction at work. Um, and along with this, elevates our mood to a certain extent. And that will also be true for Taurus, May 16th to June 15th. And good potential for communications, some distress at home, some need to improve um, the household or the facility. Mars is in the fifth house. Again, arguments with children are indicated. Children being maybe too independent. And friends being a little bit too critical or too difficult to deal with. Rahu's in the 10th house, good for career success, but again, it's something you'll have to fight for and maintain. For Gemini, is June 16th roughly to um, July, July 15th. We have a Moon, Venus, Jupiter conjunction, so this sign may be feeling a little bit overwhelmed by events. Um, some optimism, but again, Mercury's in the moon sign, so there's some indecision about what's going on. Um, family life isn't going so great. Confidence isn't going so great. So you'll feel these sudden ebbs and flows in confidence. Um, maybe what I would call manic depressive peaks and valleys. That's a Sun K2 characteristic. Sun Rahu does it too, but Sun Rahu brings out the sensitivity involved, so that sign will think it's wonderful, but will be hurt if anybody says it isn't wonderful. That sign with that sign placement. But Sun K2 can indicate what I would call depressive troughs, so you have to be careful about that. Gemini. Mars is in the fourth house, so again, some difficulty with family life, some emotional upset because of Saturn affecting the heart and the emotional center. And fifth house is a house of children. Children will be a little bit careless or overly um, ambitious, overly, but again, I would say to a certain extent reckless, because I've seen Jupiter-Venus combinations make very reckless um, decisions. I have a Jupiter-Venus, not a combination, but a mutual aspect in my chart. I had so many accidents when I was a kid um, because I thought I could do things I couldn't do. And so just a lot of injuries. And so again, it's something, so that's why I'm so sensitive to this particular conjunction, because it does lead to overconfidence. Um, and, and just telling you that from personal experience. The other thing is, from this chart, relationship life, again, there's some worry or anxiety about relationship life because of the because of the moon over here being a little bit weakened because it's moving towards new. So the moon itself affects our feelings. If the moon is moving away from the sun, it's considered optimism. We see things growing and expanding. If the moon's moving towards the sun, it looks more like a downer. It looks more like a bit of depression or a bit of anxiety popping in there as well. So that feeling will probably hold for most signs for the week, but it's not bad for all signs. Let's see now. Saturn's in the 10th house and Rahu's in the ninth house. So some promises of improvement in life, but again, they're frustrating. They're just out of reach. And Saturn's in the 10th house. A lot of work. You have to redo a lot of work. For Cancer, Cancer has Mercury in the first house. This is a good combination for saving money or recovering money from people, Jupiter, Venus, especially in the 12th house. For this particular sign, Cancer, July 16th to roughly August 15th. And Mercury's in the first house. Some financial expenses, though, and some expenses connected with cars and also with family life. Um, other thing we have here is one, two, three, four. Rahu's in the eighth house in the sign, so again, this anxiety that people are going to be attacking you or hurting you. Saturn's in the ninth house, so your luck will feel pretty bad. The good news is, at least from this chart, this Jupiter-Venus conjunction in the 12th house will be a little bit better for saving money, for putting money away. But again, like I said, this sign is a very emotional sign to begin with, or it's affected by the moon very intensely. And the next week or so is going to be a little bit rough, if I'm quite honest, despite the temporary uptick today and tomorrow. For Leo, this is August 15th to September 15th. We have Sun in the first house, along with K2. This does create a Raj Yoga for the chart, which I've been saying, and that's one of the reasons why Trump seems to be doing so well. But it's not without obstacles, and it's not without a lot of attacks on his personality, which were always there. But these have strengthened, these have become even more difficult. And Mars is in the second house, so this sign will speak aggressively. This sign will speak forcefully. Um, there are no planets in the fifth house, so we can't judge the house of politics, except that Jupiter and Venus are in the 11th house, so we'll give political gains to this sign. Mercury's in the 12th house, good for saving money, good for foreign trips, good for dealing with people from other countries, good for travel. Rahu is in the 7th house, and the sign indicates some fame or recognition to wife, but wife will also be difficult to deal with. And Saturn's in the 8th house, so again, there will be opposition from older or um, people with illnesses or the elderly or the poor. Okay. Um, for Virgo, this is September 15th to October 15th. We have Mars in the first house, so this gives this sign more energy than it's seen in a long time. It's near the middle of this sign. It's going to continue to have that energy for quite a while, at least another couple of weeks. And the second house lord is in the ninth house, is in the 10th house, excuse me. So this should give some career expansion, some additional financial gains because of Mercury being in the 11th house, but also some problems um, with expenditures connected with authority figures or the government. So there may be unexpected expenses or expenses that have been ignored because of this Sun K2 conjunction. For Rahu's in the sixth house gives you tough opponents, but an ability to fight back. And Saturn's in the seventh house will make spouse or relationship partner seem a little bit cold or depressed, just to be truthful with you. Not a good time for forming new relationship partners for this sign, mainly because of Mars. Same is true of Leo and Gemini. Okay, so not a good time for you in terms of forming new romantic relationships. Business partnerships, maybe if they're going to be working for you as opposed to you working with them. For Libra, this is October 15th through November 15th. Um, have, let's see now, October 15th through November 15th. So the Lord of the first house is in the ninth. It puts an emphasis in this um, planets, in this signs life on learning and education. Mercury will also focus a lot of attention on career life, and that'll actually start to expand towards the end of the week. Towards the end of the week, some unexpected expenses. And Mars, again, not a good time to get involved in a romantic relationship, even if you feel the urge. Saturn aspects Mars, so you want something a little bit more perfect than normal anyway. Rahu's in the fifth house. There's an attraction to foreign things or things that are new or things that are exotic. For Scorpio, Scorpio has basically, just to go back to Libra for a second, not a bad month for money, but like I say, car expenses look for this sign. I mentioned it at the beginning, car expenses look like they're a possibility, and also maybe even expenses connected with injuries. So you'll have to be careful. So Libra should be careful about things like showers and things like that. Scorpio has no planets in the first house. Mars is in the 11th house. This is a good placement for financial gain, for financial improvement. I think when you see a combination like this, it indicates this sign is going to get some money. Rahu's in so this is November 15th to December 15th. Sorry for forgetting that. Rahu is in the fourth house, so there will be some dissatisfaction at home. Saturn's in the fifth house. Again, some problems with kids and their friends. Okay. from this combination. Um, Moon and Venus are in the eighth house, so this sign will seem very sexy or very attractive to other signs. And let's see, career life though will be a major focus for this sign over the next, uh, at least over the next month. So not a bad week for Scorpio. Scorpio is one of the signs that actually makes up pretty well during this week. Let's move on to Sagittarius. Sagittarius has no planets in the first house. It has Moon, Venus, and Jupiter in the seventh house, which can indicate improved relationships with people. Um, some problems with home life, but a lot of ambition, a lot of desire. Career life looks extraordinarily good this month, although bosses will be a little bit difficult to deal with. And Mercury in the eighth house, overall, that's not a bad period for examination or for research connected with work. So this, again, Sagittarius has a relatively good week. Just be careful about people's feelings at home, okay? So just keep that in mind. Capricorn has no planets in the first house. The Lord is in the third house. So Capricorn is always an ambitious sign, but this makes it even more so. But it'll probably be looking over prior commitments it made and trying to increase its luck. Um, you have Rahu in the second house, who won a lot of money, like large gobs of money. Um, with Saturn aspect by Mars in the third house, want its luck to be perfect. So there may be opportunities missed because of that. But I'm not encouraging you to take chances because it will feel uncomfortable this month. Um, I would wait until really about another month down the road before I take large risks. Uh, Moon, Jupiter, Venus are in the sixth house. That's basically good for winning people over to your side. Mercury's in the seventh house. This is a good combination for attracting a witty or intelligent partner. And Sun and K2 are in the eighth house. Again, some problems with people, especially superiors, changing their mind about what they want or being um, absent or not willing to give guidance. Mars is in the 10th house, very good for career life. I'm sorry, Mars is in the ninth house, uh, very good for career life, and it will also give financial gains. For Aquarius, Aquarius is so Capricorn is January 15th through um, February 15th. Aquarius is February 15th. I'm sorry, Aquarius is February 15th through March 15th. That's right. And this sign will be obsessed with novelty, with trying to get things, trying to obtain new things. Relationship partners will be tough though, and maybe a little bit difficult to deal with, fairly unpredictable. Mars, not a good time for new relationships for Aquarius. Saturn is in the second house. It's a good placement for this sign because it wants to make money, but it'll come more slowly than this sign would like. And finally, we go over to this Moon Venus Jupiter conjunction in the fifth house. Very good for luck, very good if the person's politically or even promotionally minded, a good time to ask for a promotion, or if you want to run for political office, a good time to do it. Mercury is in the sixth, maybe not the best time for communication though. And Mars is in the eighth. So again, this gives Mars affliction. So again, not really a good combination for relationship life. Finally, down to Pisces. Pisces has Saturn in the first house. So this is um, March 15th through through around April 15th. And Saturn is in the first house, so this slows the sign down a little bit. Relationship partners will be difficult to deal with. Not a good time for new relationships for this particular sign. Venus, Jupiter, and Moon are in the fourth house. Good time for writing, good time for making sure everyone's happy at home. Mercury's in the fifth. That's a generally good combination for luck and communications. Um, Seventh house, I'm sorry, Mercury's in the fifth, and good communications with children and business partners. Sixth house has Sun and K2 in it, and that indicates some opposition from bosses. Mars is in the eighth. Mars is in the seventh, excuse me. So again, fights with relationship partners, difficulties with new relationships. Um, can be a passionate combination, but Mars and Virgo is not so much. Uh, Rahu is in the 12th house. So again, as many other signs do, this sign will have to look out for unnecessary expenditures, especially for things you've wanted a long time and all of a sudden you see a lot of things on sale and they're cheap. It won't be cheap. Um, let's go over to the world map. And we have Jupiter and Venus. Mercury, there should be some news out of Hawaii. Jupiter and Venus in combination near Alaska can give some flooding. I think I heard reports about that. Um, there can be some danger of earthquakes from this combination from Mercury near Alaska, but I think that's largely past. The sun is in the west coast of Canada, and we have Rahu going over Los Angeles, Nevada, or actually looks more like San Diego, Nevada, not Utah, um, Idaho, sorry, and Alberta. Looks like so. Alberta is really trying to stir things up in Canada right now, right? So that's why I've been telling you, just watch the news for that. We don't hear a lot about that um, on the evening news. But it's been a fascinating phenomenon to watch, even if nothing comes out of it. Just the apparent level of discontent these in Alberta, Saskatchewan, in particular. Um, let's see, Mars and these states are between Mars and Saturn, and so is this region of Canada. So again, there will be a lot of attention uh, on North Dakota, South Dakota, Texas, Oklahoma, especially in terms of natural resources, and also even up into Canada. And I would even say some difficulty or um, some domestic strife in those states. I'm not going to go so far as to say a shooting, but certainly some domestic disturbances. We have a descending moon line passing over Louisiana. The mayor just got involved, just got charged um, in a corruption case. We'll see how that got turned out. So that brought Louisiana, or New Orleans in particular, into the spotlight, and look where that line is heading. Wow, that's interesting. Um, as we go up through, there may be more incidents of scandals as we go up all the way through Ohio, Kentucky, Tennessee, and I believe that's Mississippi. Um, Let me just go over here and even into Ottawa and even into Ottawa and Toronto. The other thing is we have a Jupiter line running up through New England, close to Washington, D.C., over Havana, over Cuba, and close to Haiti. And I think this indicates, again, more potential, possibility of flooding, more potential, oh, sorry, more potential damage from hurricanes as we're seeing um, in the weather right now. There's a Mercury line running through northern South America, through close to Venezuela, through Guyana or Guyana, depending on how you want to pronounce it, and hitting into Venezuela, hitting into western Brazil, hitting down into Ecuador. So those countries will be in the news a lot. There's some problems in the governments of Argentina, Uruguay, and I would say Brazil. So there will be some losses to those governments and also to Iceland. Iceland has some disruptions coming as well. There's a Rahu line running over Iceland as well and close to the Azores and right on the Canary Islands. And I think what this indicates is some kind of economic panic or an indicator hitting that particular region. So let's go over it. Let me see if I can move this little guy over so I can see this. Yeah, so that'll be pretty highly publicized, it looks like. And problems in Western Africa look like they're resuming fights, conflicts, wars, and maybe even for some potential for civil unrest in Ireland, England, France, and Spain, Portugal, Northern Africa, especially through um, Algeria, I'm sorry, through Libya. And we have a Venus line running through uh, northern Italy, Switzerland, uh, Germany, Belgium, and Sweden. And this can indicate excessive rainfall. That's one of the significations of Venus, is excessive rainfall or excessive moisture. Um, it probably won't make a dent in South America or in Africa, excuse me, just because those areas are can absorb that much more easily. There is a Mercury line running up through Greece, up into Finland, and into Eastern Europe, especially around Poland. And I think that's the Czech Republic right there. I'm not sure. And so essentially you should expect to see these countries more active commercially and also more in the news. Um, there's a sun line running up through Saudi Arabia, so and also through Western Africa. The Mercury line is running through South Africa too. I should mention that. So we can expect a lot of news about Africa, Algeria, all the way down through Central African Republic, all the way down through the Congo, um, all the way down to South Africa. The next line is the Sun line. That's in Western Turkey. Some challenges to leadership, and so in Saudi Arabia, there'll be certain challenges to leadership, um, which I don't know how that's going to manifest, but that looks interesting. Also, some conflicts in Sudan, some with authority figures. For the next place on the map, we have Iran, and Iran has a Moon Rahu line on it. It actually extends, the actual Moon Rahu line actually extends into into not Bangladesh, into Pakistan and Afghanistan, mostly Pakistan. So there may be some panic in Afghanistan. A lot of public interest, but interest in its public profile. And as we start winding this up, there's a Saturn line going through India, intersecting a Jupiter line. So this could show both a slowing and an increasing of the economy at the same time. So maybe inflationary pressure in India and also in Russia. And we have a Mars line running through uh, East India, close, oh, not quite there. And so I think we can see some conflict over religion in Eastern India, according to this map. Also, even in Bangladesh and Ladakh. As we go over to, so that Jupiter line extends to Indonesia and almost touches Australia. So that can indicate increased financial resources popping into those areas. Um, there's a Mercury line running over China and hitting close to Vietnam. So I think you can expect those parts of the world to do very well financially. And let me see now. There's a Mercury line running over China, which should increase commerce. Borneo, I'm sorry, Australia, and okay, so let's go on to this one. I had to zone out there for a second. Jupiter and Venus are in close proximity, so maybe some floods in eastern India is a possibility, and also in Myanmar. Yeah. Uh, the Mercury line over China, though, and Borneo and Australia does indicate increased trade, so that's good. Sun is going over, it's right next to Korea, Japan, and cutting right through Indonesia and into Australia. So that indicates there'll be some changes or corrections in spirit in in government. And overall, I think that's about it. There is a Rahu line coming down close to Western Australia. So, uh, um, so basically, and there's some panic or scandal in far eastern Australia, maybe even going over into New Zealand, and again, continued attacks on elected officials in that country. So that's about it for me for this week. This is the second time I've done this broadcast. Obviously, you're going to see some differences between this forecast and yesterday's because I don't use a script. I do the interpretation. Um, I do the interpretation without a script, so I may have more or fewer details than yesterday. And this one probably went on for a bit longer than yesterday did as well. So I'm losing my voice slowly but surely. I think that's a sign for me to sign off. I love you all. Thank you so much for watching. And don't forget to subscribe, like, share as you will. And I promise I'm going to get a haircut real soon. Not that it matters to any of you, but I'm just looking at myself in the image and I'm going to be doing it for myself. Okay? All right. Have a great week. Be careful. Go after what you want, but be careful, okay? Don't be a dream high, but be happy with what you get, okay? That may be the best advice I can give you at this particular point, because there are a lot of opportunities opening up with this Jupiter-Venus conjunction, but also a lot of restrictions opening up with the Mars-Saturn opposition. So one tempers the other. All right, my friends? All right, we'll see you real soon. Thanks again for watching, and namaste. And please watch the video I did with Krishna Darshan. He's a really interesting guy, really nice man, and a longtime friend, and his book is really excellent. Okay? I am writing a book. I don't know when I'll finish it, but I am writing a book. But it's his. I'm just explaining why I haven't written a book so far. And it's just been one, I'm just trying to think of a good way to put it. One revision, um, one indication saying, does the world really need another Vedic astrology book as well? And so I think at some point, I think the answer to that is whether it needs it or not is almost irrelevant. It was called for, it's called for. And um, I think I could give you folks, some valuable insights, but that's just me. And so I'll just leave it at that. So, but I want to congratulate Krishna on his book. It's extremely well written. It's extremely well informed. It's extremely deep. He did a fantastic job. Okay, folks. All right. So good. So good luck, everyone. And thank you again for watching. I love you all. Bye bye now.